In 1950, a grandmother grew a record-breaking garden using nothing but stinging nettles, warm water, and baking yeast. She never visited a garden centre to buy heavy plastic jugs of expensive chemical fertilizers. The modern agricultural industry desperately wants you to believe that healthy soil requires complicated laboratory formulas. But the exact opposite is true, because the most powerful soil boosters are sitting in your kitchen right now. Today we are going to count down 30 forgotten 3-ingredient soil boosters that our grandmothers absolutely swore by. These incredibly simple recipes replace every single expensive modern complex you currently buy at the local hardware store. They require absolutely no heavy lifting and utilize the common everyday scraps you normally throw into the trash. Number 30 is the legendary stinging nettle tea. Grandmothers knew that the painful stinging weeds growing along the fence line were secretly packed with massive amounts of raw nitrogen. They would chop the green weeds and submerge them in a wooden bucket of warm, collected rainwater. Adding a single packet of active baking yeast completely accelerates the natural decomposition process almost overnight. The yeast aggressively consumes the tough plant matter and releases all the trapped minerals directly into the dark liquid. After just 3 days of steeping, this foul-smelling green tea becomes a biological powerhouse for hungry vegetables. Pouring a single cup of this dark nettle brew around the base of a tomato plant produces explosive green growth. You get all the incredible benefits of a commercial nitrogen liquid feed without spending a single dollar. Number 29 is the heavy comfrey root booster. Comfrey is a deeply rooted weed that pulls hidden valuable minerals from far beneath the exhausted topsoil. Older women would chop the large fuzzy leaves and toss them into a deep metal bucket of rainwater. Adding a large spoonful of sticky, dark molasses feeds the natural bacteria that ferments the strong green mixture. This dark liquid acts exactly like a modern expensive synthetic bloom booster without the staggering, ridiculous cost. The high levels of potassium found inside the comfrey leaves force pepper and squash plants to develop massive, heavy blossoms. The sweet molasses ensures that the microscopic soil life multiplies rapidly, transforming your dirt into a living, breathing ecosystem. This simple 3-ingredient bucket provided total food security for families living on a tight, fixed income. Number 28 is the banana peel and eggshell extraction. Eating a morning banana and boiling an egg provides a senior with excellent daily nutrition and steady energy. The leftover yellow skins and broken white shells contain exactly what struggling garden plants desperately need to survive the summer. You simply chop the peels, crush the fragile shells, and soak them together in a large jar of boiling water. The intense heat of the boiling water rapidly pulls the vital potassium from the soft banana peels. Simultaneously, the hot water begins to gently dissolve the calcium trapped deep inside the sharp, broken eggshells. Letting this murky jar sit on the kitchen counter for 2 days creates a perfect, gentle, liquid plant food. Pouring this simple morning mixture over your potted patio plants stops their leaves from turning pale and yellow. Number 27 is the wood ash and vinegar solution. Every pioneer cabin and Depression-era home had a wood stove that produced endless grey ash all winter long. Wood ash contains heavy amounts of potash, but it is sometimes hard for plant roots to absorb it quickly. Grandmothers solved this problem by mixing 1 cup of ash and 1 spoonful of white vinegar into a gallon of water. The acidic white vinegar gently breaks down the alkaline ash, causing a microscopic chemical reaction in the bucket. This mild reaction unlocks the trapped minerals and makes them instantly available for the delicate plant roots to drink. Watering your heavy-feeding cabbage crops with this grey liquid builds incredibly strong cellular walls, preventing devastating insect damage. This old trick proves that you do not need a chemistry degree to master the natural science of your backyard. Number 26 is the dandelion root and brown sugar ferment. We pull yellow dandelions relentlessly, considering them a terrible nuisance that ruins our perfectly manicured green lawns. But historical gardeners understood that dandelions possess an incredible deep taproot, filled with crucial growth hormones and vitamins. They would wash the freshly pulled weeds and cover them completely with dark brown sugar in a glass jar. The heavy sugar acts as a powerful osmotic agent that pulls all the liquid directly out of the plant cells. Over a few days, the sugar melts into a thick, dark syrup filled with the pure life force of the resilient weed. Mixing 1 spoonful of this potent dandelion syrup into a watering can full of water creates a miraculous growth stimulant. This 3-ingredient tonic rescues deeply stressed garden vegetables that have stopped growing during the terrible heat of late July. Number 25 is the coffee ground and aspirin tonic. A lonely morning often begins with a hot pot of black coffee and a small white aspirin pill for aching joints. Those acidic brown coffee grounds are highly treasured by older gardeners because they provide an incredibly steady release of nitrogen. Combining a cup of used grounds and 1 crushed aspirin tablet into a bucket of water creates a powerful defensive shield. The salicylic acid found inside the tiny aspirin pill triggers the natural immune system response inside the growing plant. It falsely convinces the vegetable that it is under attack, causing it to suddenly build thicker, stronger defensive tissues. The coffee grounds feed the roots while the aspirin arms the plant against incoming terrible fungal diseases. You get total disease protection and a heavy nitrogen boost using the leftover remnants of your quiet morning routine. Number 24 is the potato skin and wood ash feed. Boiling potatoes for a thick evening stew was a daily survival ritual for families enduring incredibly hard economic times. The discarded potato skins are incredibly rich in starch and essential carbohydrates that feed massive colonies of healthy soil bacteria. Soaking these brown skins alongside a handful of grey wood ash in fresh water produces a wonderful root-building tonic. The starch provides instant energy for the microscopic soil life, while the ash delivers heavy doses of necessary potassium. As the cloudy water ferments slightly on the back porch, it turns into a cloudy, rich liquid fertilizer. Pouring this over your newly transplanted seedlings greatly reduces the terrible shock of being moved into the harsh outdoor dirt. Your plants will establish their roots twice as fast just because you saved the scraps from your dinner plate. Number 23 is the onion skin and garlic clove steep. Gathering dry, papery onion skins from the dark root cellar was a constant chore for the pioneer children. Grandmothers knew that these useless-looking skins contained incredible amounts of sulfur and completely natural protective antioxidants. They would steep handfuls of these fragile skins with 3 crushed garlic cloves in a large pot of warm water. This incredibly pungent golden liquid serves a brilliant dual purpose in the traditional vegetable garden ecosystem. The sulfur feeds the soil biology directly, while the intense garlic odor drives away terrible root-eating nematodes. Using this simple 3-ingredient liquid around your carrot rows ensures the orange roots grow straight and completely unblemished. You are literally fertilizing and defending your precious food supply at the exact same time, without using synthetic poisons. Number 22 is the Epsom salt and ammonia booster. Sometimes a senior gardener notices their beautiful tomato plants suddenly turning a terrible pale shade of sickly yellow. This usually means the tired soil has completely run out of magnesium and raw nitrogen during the middle of summer. An old Depression-era secret is mixing 1 spoon of Epsom salt and 1 drop of household ammonia into a gallon of water. The Epsom salt delivers a massive dose of pure magnesium, which is the central building block of green chlorophyll. The single tiny drop of ammonia provides a rapid shock of pure nitrogen that the tired roots drink up instantly. Within 48 hours of applying this strange homemade mixture, the pale, dying leaves will turn deeply green once again. This was the emergency rescue medicine that saved countless family harvests from total devastating failure. Number 21 is the dry milk and Epsom salt drench. A box of powdered milk often sits entirely forgotten in the back of the pantry until it eventually goes stale. When tomatoes begin developing ugly black rotten spots on their bottoms, they are desperately crying out for available calcium. Mixing a cup of stale dry milk and a spoonful of Epsom salt into a watering can completely cures this terrible disease. The powdered milk dissolves easily, providing an immediate heavy rush of calcium directly to the thirsty root zone. The Epsom salt helps the plant cells expand rapidly, so they can actually absorb the new calcium efficiently. This simple milky liquid prevents blossom end rot entirely and guarantees you will harvest perfectly round, unblemished red tomatoes. There is absolutely no need to purchase an expensive calcium-magnesium supplement bottle from a fancy hydroponic store. Here is a hard truth about the modern gardening industry that massive chemical corporations want to keep completely hidden. They have spent decades trying to convince you that soil is a dead, sterile sponge that requires their expensive colored liquids. They want you to feel entirely incompetent and completely dependent on their heavily marketed proprietary chemical formulas. But your grandmother understood that dirt is a living, breathing stomach that simply needs to be fed raw organic material. Number 20 is the rolled oats and molasses feed. A cardboard tube of plain oatmeal provides a cheap, filling breakfast that warms a lonely kitchen on a chilly morning. Tossing a handful of those dry oats into a bucket of water with a spoonful of molasses creates an incredible microbial feast. The complex carbohydrates in the raw oats slowly dissolve and feed the beneficial fungi living deep within the dark earth. The sweet molasses provides a rapid initial sugar rush that wakes up the dormant bacteria sleeping in the cold spring soil. As these microscopic creatures rapidly consume the sugary oat water, they release tremendous amounts of locked-up nutrients. Your plants will respond to this sudden explosion of underground life by pushing out dozens of massive new green leaves. It is a completely invisible biological process that creates visible massive yields in your summer vegetable patch. Number 19 is the willow bark and raw honey rooting hormone. Taking plant cuttings from a neighbor's yard was the traditional cheap way for older women to expand their beautiful flower beds. But forcing a cut stem to grow brand new roots is a very difficult and highly stressful botanical process. They would boil stripped green willow bark in water and add a tiny drop of raw, sticky honey to the cooled liquid. The fresh green willow bark contains incredibly high levels of natural rooting hormones that chemically force stem tissue to produce roots. The raw honey acts as a powerful natural antibacterial agent that prevents the vulnerable cut stem from rotting in the dirt. Soaking your fresh cuttings in this golden liquid guarantees they will survive and establish themselves quickly into independent, healthy plants. This replaces the small, expensive plastic tubs of synthetic rooting powder sold at every single modern garden center. Number 18 is the grass clipping and fish scrap brew. When the local fisherman cleaned his daily catch, the bloody scraps and heavy bones were never tossed into the garbage. Frugal gardeners would bury these smelly fish scraps in a bucket, completely layered with fresh green lawn clippings and water. This creates an unbelievably foul-smelling liquid that happens to be the most potent organic fertilizer known to human agriculture. The fresh grass clippings provide intense heat and massive amounts of raw green nitrogen to the fermenting underwater mixture. The decaying fish releases heavy phosphorus, calcium, and incredibly vital trace oceanic minerals as it slowly melts away into the water. Straining this terrible-smelling sludge and watering your corn plants with it produces stalks that grow unbelievably tall and incredibly strong. It is the exact same recipe the native tribes taught the starving early pioneers to ensure their ultimate survival. Number 17 is the coastal seaweed and molasses tea. If a senior lived anywhere near the crashing ocean, gathering washed-up seaweed was a completely free daily seaside chore. Kelp and common seaweed possess dozens of unique trace minerals that do not exist anywhere in ordinary terrestrial backyard dirt. Submerging these salty green fronds in a bucket of rainwater with a heavy spoonful of molasses creates a miraculous ocean tonic. The sweet molasses strips the incredible micronutrients out of the tough sea plants and transfers them directly into the dark liquid. When you pour this oceanic tea over your struggling garden, the plants absorb rare elements like iodine and zinc immediately. These rare elements force the vegetables to grow stronger immune systems, making them highly resistant to sudden, terrible droughts. Modern liquid kelp extract costs $30 a quart, but you can literally make it yourself for almost absolutely nothing. Number 16 is the chamomile flower and apple cider vinegar soak. Growing delicate chamomile flowers provided older women with a deeply soothing herbal tea that eased their terrible evening joint pains. These tiny white flowers contain unique sulfur compounds that naturally prevent damp-off disease in very young, fragile vegetable seedlings. Steeping the dried flowers in water with a small splash of acidic apple cider vinegar creates a powerful protective wash. The mild vinegar gently acidifies the herbal water, creating an environment where terrible soil funguses simply cannot survive or multiply. Watering your tiny, delicate seedlings with this fragrant liquid guarantees they will not suddenly collapse and die in their planting trays. The young roots grow thick and deeply white, completely protected by the invisible shield of the medicinal flower tea. This gentle remedy saved entire generations of crucial spring crops from rotting away in the cold, damp, early-season dirt. Number 15 is the alfalfa hay and Epsom salt infusion. A single bale of green alfalfa hay was commonly kept in the old barn to feed the valuable working horses. Alfalfa is incredibly unique because its massive roots stretch deeply into the earth, pulling up a natural growth stimulant called triacontanol. Soaking a handful of this green hay in water with a spoon of Epsom salt unlocks this magical hidden botanical chemical. The Epsom salt magnesium helps release the powerful triacontanol directly from the dried green stalks into the surrounding murky water. When this hormone-rich liquid touches the roots of a pepper plant, it chemically forces the plant to begin growing wildly. You will see new branches and dozens of tiny white blossoms appearing within days of applying this simple agricultural feed. It completely mimics the incredible results of dangerous synthetic steroid fertilizers without harming the delicate surrounding ecosystem. Number 14 is the chopped rhubarb leaf and wood ash repellent. The giant green leaves of the rhubarb plant are extremely toxic and were always cut away before making a sweet pie. However, frugal gardeners realized that these dangerous, poisonous leaves contained incredibly high amounts of natural oxalic acid. They would chop the massive green leaves and soak them in a bucket of water mixed with alkaline grey wood ash. The chemical collision between the acidic leaves and the alkaline ash creates a highly potent, mineral-rich liquid defense system. Pouring this heavy, toxic tea around the extreme outer perimeter of your garden feeds the deep soil while repelling hungry insects. The oxalic acid burns the soft underbellies of crawling pests, forcing them to completely abandon your precious vegetable patch. This proves that even the dangerous, toxic trash from your kitchen holds immense, incredible value if you understand how nature works. Number 13 is the beetroot skin and coffee ground mixture. Preparing a heavy pot of borscht or simple boiled beets leaves the kitchen counter covered in dark purple vegetable skins. These deep red skins are completely loaded with iron and heavy natural sugars that tired garden soil desperately needs to recover. Mixing these purple scraps with your daily used coffee grounds in a jar of water creates a magnificent dark fertilizer. The acidic coffee grounds provide the fast-acting nitrogen, while the beet skins slowly release their deep iron reserves into the water. This dark purple liquid is especially beneficial for acid-loving plants like heavy blooming hydrangeas and massive blueberry bushes. The extra iron prevents the leaves from turning pale and keeps the plant producing heavy, sweet fruit all summer long. You are turning your cooking garbage into literal garden gold with absolutely zero physical effort or heavy lifting required. Let us consider the physical reality of a senior citizen maintaining a large, beautiful garden entirely alone. When your tired knees pop and your fragile lower back aches terribly, the simple act of carrying water becomes a massive chore. Tugging a 50-pound sack of synthetic granulated fertilizer from the trunk of a car is completely out of the question. These simple, lightweight, water-based recipes allow a proud, independent person to continue growing their own food safely. Number 12 is the dry pet food and molasses compost tea. Sometimes an older dog or cat simply refuses to eat the cheap dry kibble you bought at the grocery store. Instead of throwing the bag away, smart gardeners use it because it is heavily fortified with calcium bone meal and crude protein. Dissolving a cup of this dry pet food in a large bucket of water with sweet molasses creates an unbelievable biological feed. The massive amounts of protein inside the cheap pet food break down rapidly into incredibly rich organic nitrogen for the soil. The sticky molasses powers the microscopic bacteria that rapidly digest the heavy dog food, turning it into dark, liquid plant energy. Watering your giant pumpkin vines with this strange brew provides the massive heavy calories those giant fruits need to expand rapidly. It sounds completely crazy until you see the staggering results blooming proudly in your own backyard vegetable patch. Number 11 is the pine needle and used tea leaf acidifier. Many beautiful garden plants like azaleas and rhododendrons will quickly die if they are planted in highly alkaline, heavy clay dirt. Grandmothers would constantly save their used black tea bags and rake up the fallen brown pine needles from the front yard. They would soak these two simple items in a bucket of pure rainwater to create a highly effective acidic soil drench. The bitter tannins slowly leaking from the black tea leaves instantly lower the heavy pH balance of the hard tap water. The sharp pine needles release their natural organic acids incredibly slowly, providing a gentle, continuous feed for the struggling, sensitive plants. Pouring this dark brown liquid around the base of your acid-loving flowers restores their bright, vibrant colors almost overnight. It is a completely free solution to a problem that usually requires expensive bags of chemical soil acidifiers from the store. Number 10 is the carrot top and crushed eggshell mineral soak. When you slice up fresh carrots for a humble evening stew, the feathery green tops are usually discarded immediately. But those bright green carrot tops are actually a massive repository of rare trace minerals pulled from deep underground. Mashing these green tops together with sharp, crushed eggshells in a jar of water creates a remarkably balanced liquid fertilizer. The green carrot leaves break down into the water, providing an immediate, fast-acting shot of pure, raw nitrogen. The crushed eggshells slowly release their heavy calcium, acting as a long-term, slow-release mineral pill for the plant roots. This simple combination provides both instant energy and long-lasting structural support for heavy fruiting plants like summer squash. It is the perfect, complete fertilizer created entirely from the leftovers of a simple, cheap vegetarian dinner. Number 9 is the tomato sucker and Epsom salt clone brew. Pruning a wild, sprawling tomato plant is a necessary weekly chore to ensure the heavy green fruit ripens properly. You are constantly snapping off the fast-growing green suckers from the fragile joints of the main tomato stem. If you soak these removed green suckers in water with a pinch of Epsom salt, they release massive growth hormones. The tomato plant naturally fills these wild suckers with intense biological energy, trying to create a brand new secondary plant. The Epsom salt extracts this raw energy into the water, creating a highly specific custom fertilizer designed exactly for tomatoes. Pouring this green liquid back onto the mother plant creates an incredibly efficient closed-loop biological recycling system. You are literally using the plant's own discarded energy to force it to produce much larger, heavier red fruit. Number 8 is the crushed charcoal and unsalted bone broth tonic. After a long cold winter, the leftover black charcoal chunks inside the old fireplace contain massive amounts of pure carbon. Mixing this crushed black carbon with the leftover unsalted broth from boiling a chicken carcass creates an ancient agricultural miracle. The natives of the Amazon used a very similar mixture to create the most fertile black dirt ever discovered on Earth. The microscopic pores inside the crushed black charcoal act like millions of tiny empty apartments for beneficial soil bacteria to inhabit. The rich liquid bone broth floods these tiny apartments with massive amounts of raw protein and heavy essential calcium. When you pour this black slurry onto your garden, it permanently alters the terrible hard clay soil into a spongy, rich paradise. You are building permanent, lasting soil structure rather than just giving the plant a temporary synthetic chemical rush. Number 7 is the human hair and apple cider vinegar booster. Sweeping the floor of a local barbershop or simply cleaning out your own hairbrush yields a surprising garden resource. Natural human hair is composed almost entirely of keratin, which is an incredibly dense source of pure, slow-release nitrogen. Because hair takes a long time to break down, grandmothers would soak it in a jar of acidic apple cider vinegar and water. The sharp acid of the vinegar chemically attacks the tough outer layer of the hair strands, causing them to finally dissolve. This creates a very strange-looking cloudy liquid that holds immense amounts of highly bioavailable nitrogen for your heavy-feeding plants. Watering your sweet corn with this bizarre mixture provides the exact heavy nitrogen push required to grow tall, thick, green stalks. It perfectly demonstrates how early generations absolutely refuse to let anything of biological value go to waste. Number 6 is the burnt match and banana peel phosphorus punch. Whenever a wooden match was struck to light the evening lamps, the tiny burnt end was carefully saved in a tin. Those burnt match heads contain heavy amounts of red phosphorus, which is the exact mineral plants desperately need to create massive flowers. Dropping a dozen burnt matches into a jar of water alongside a chopped banana peel creates the ultimate bloom-boosting liquid. The water quickly dissolves the red phosphorus from the tiny wooden sticks, turning it into a completely liquid form. Meanwhile, the banana peel slowly releases its heavy potassium into the exact same jar, creating a perfect flowering chemical ratio. When you water your blooming roses with this specific mixture, they will explode with dozens of heavy, beautifully scented flower buds. This completely eliminates the need to buy tiny, expensive plastic bottles of synthetic bloom-boosting drops from the commercial nursery. Number 5 is the baking soda and molasses fungal shield. Fungal diseases can absolutely destroy an entire crop of beautiful cucumbers, leaving the massive green leaves covered in terrible white powder. Older gardeners knew that altering the microscopic pH level on the surface of the leaf would stop the fungus completely. They mixed a spoonful of cheap baking soda and a drop of sweet molasses into a large plastic spray bottle of water. The baking soda makes the water highly alkaline, creating a harsh environment where terrible powdery mildew spores physically cannot survive. The single drop of sticky molasses acts as a natural biological glue that holds the alkaline water firmly against the green leaf. When this sweet, salty liquid drips down into the dirt, the molasses feeds the roots, while the baking soda sweetens the soil. It is a highly effective dual-purpose remedy that costs mere pennies to make in your own kitchen sink. Number 4 is the stale beer and household ammonia lawn tonic. Before expensive synthetic lawn granules were invented, proud homeowners still managed to grow incredibly thick, lush green grass in their yards. If a can of cheap beer was left open overnight, it became a powerful biological weapon for the struggling patchy lawn. Mixing 1 cup of stale flat beer with a single drop of ammonia and a bucket of water creates explosive green growth. The dead yeast and complex carbohydrates in the flat beer feed the heavy fungal networks hiding just beneath the short grass blades. The tiny drop of ammonia provides a massive, blinding shock of instant chemical nitrogen that forces the grass to turn deeply green. Pouring this mixture over terrible, dry, brown patches in your yard will cause the dead grass to aggressively spring back to life. You are utilizing a forgotten Depression-era trick that works much better than the highly toxic chemicals sold on television today. Number 3 is the unflavored gelatin and Epsom salt nitrogen blast. Making a wobbly, cold gelatin dessert was a hallmark of 1960s dinner parties and quiet family Sunday suppers. A simple, cheap packet of unflavored gelatin powder is actually composed of incredibly concentrated animal protein and pure, raw nitrogen. Dissolving one plain gelatin packet and a spoon of Epsom salt into a gallon of hot water creates a massive liquid feed. You must let the hot liquid cool completely before pouring it gently over your favorite indoor houseplants or outdoor potted flowers. The massive nitrogen rush forces the tired yellowing plants to rapidly produce dozens of brand new, deeply dark green leaves. The Epsom salt ensures the stems grow thick and sturdy enough to actually support the sudden heavy explosion of new foliage. This creates a remarkably lush, tropical-looking garden using an ingredient mostly completely forgotten in the very back of the baking cupboard. Number 2 is the plain cornmeal and dry milk fungal feed. Sprinkling a handful of yellow cornmeal directly onto the wet garden dirt sounds like a completely ridiculous waste of baking ingredients. However, cornmeal is highly prized by older organic gardeners because it actively breeds a specific beneficial fungus called trichoderma in the soil. Mixing yellow cornmeal with powdered dry milk in a bucket of warm water creates an unbelievable defensive biological liquid barrier. The dry milk provides the heavy calcium that tomato plants desperately crave, while the cornmeal aggressively feeds the good underground fungus. This good fungus rapidly multiplies and aggressively attacks the terrible bad funguses that cause catastrophic root rot and sudden plant death. Watering your garden with this milky yellow liquid essentially inoculates your precious soil against the absolute worst botanical diseases known to man. It is a brilliant biological warfare strategy that utilizes common, cheap ingredients found in every single grocery store baking aisle. Number 1 is the rusty nail and apple cider vinegar iron cure. Every single grandfather had a heavy coffee can filled with bent, rusty iron nails sitting on his dark garage workbench. When a beloved garden plant turns completely pale yellow, but the leaf veins remain dark green, it is suffering from iron chlorosis. Dropping 5 rusty nails into a glass jar filled with water and a splash of apple cider vinegar creates an instant magical cure. The sharp, acidic vinegar rapidly dissolves the heavy orange rust, effectively pulling the pure, raw iron directly into the clear water. This chemical process creates a highly bioavailable chelated iron liquid that the starving plant roots can actually drink up immediately. Pouring this metallic-smelling orange liquid over the struggling roots forces the pale, dying leaves to turn vibrantly green within 3 short days. It is the ultimate poor man fertilizer that transforms useless, rusty garage garbage into beautiful, abundant life. Here is my final heavy challenge to you for this upcoming growing season. I want you to completely ignore the expensive, colorful fertilizer aisle at your massive local hardware store this weekend. Go into your kitchen and find a few crushed eggshells, some old coffee grounds, or a forgotten packet of dry baking yeast. Mix one of these forgotten grandmother recipes in a simple wooden bucket and pour it proudly over your struggling garden plants. Because these incredible methods were never just about saving a few dollars during hard, brutal economic times. They were about maintaining total personal independence and working intimately alongside the beautiful natural world, instead of fighting against it. Please share down in the comments exactly which forgotten 3-ingredient recipe you are going to try making this summer. These simple, quiet acts of solitary gardening prove that ancient, patient wisdom will always outgrow the expensive modern chemical machine.